Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I know a lot of you may have noticed my absence from YouTube for the past 2 months, but it's been all for good reasons. Partially because I had some major projects going on at my actual job, which is how I afford to do some of these things here on the channel. So of course that was more important. And number two, we actually moved. I sold my home because equity in the market here in Houston was just too great to pass up, especially in the area that I was in. So we're in a rental for about a year and a half, just to kind of wait for the market to settle back out, and it's already kind of starting to do that. But enough of that. The main reason we're discussing this is because I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to show a lot of people who rent things that you can do without being, not to say destructive or damaging to the home, but to do things that aren't as permanent. So we're going to be doing little touches here and there that you all can do if you're actually renting. When I started the channel, that was one of the key things that I wanted to focus on, was how you could do things inexpensively and still have automation and other things like that. But with that being said, let's cover everything that we did in the last home in a goodbye tribute to the last home that we had. So this is where it all started. Well, sort of. Our first video was actually on the Heyday headphones from Target. But then we did the two AT&T IP pass-through videos showing how to bypass the AT&T gateway router. Wow, can you believe that was 4 years ago? A little while later, we did a video on the Rachio Gen 2 smart sprinkler. That thing was incredible, and I must admit, I didn't have the greenest of thumbs back then. But it definitely helped me to get the grass at least growing at a consistent rate around most of the yard. I went from dry patches in some areas and soggy patches in others to something much more consistent. About a week before selling the house, I noticed the side of my house that was always soggy and not growing had started to grow thick green grass. I could not have done it without the Rachio Smart Sprinkler. Ah, Wise. I had quite the love-hate relationship with them. I still think at the price point, they make great products. I had their doorbell, thermostat, quite a few cameras, the watch, etc., etc. The problem for me was the constant firmware updates that sometimes broke things. And the fact that I feel they chose to intentionally block RTSP support. In fact, I was working on a video when my son was born to use the Wise camera as a baby monitor with a Google Hub. Instead of buying an expensive baby monitor, I was going to use the Wise camera in the hub, but I couldn't get the results consistent enough to put my name behind it. And let's not forget about the Uniden U-Bell, which was basically rebranded under many other names. This was quite the polarizing device. Some loved it, some hated it, others blamed me for buying it. But at the end of the day, it was one of the few sub $100 doorbells that had RTSP support and allowed you to connect to your own NVR alongside their app, depending on which app you chose, which was a whole nother story. One thing is for sure, it's not Axis. And while we're on the subject of Axis, let's not forget my eBay deal, the Axis P3807. This thing was capable of covering my whole street, but with an MSRP of $1,500, we proved that compared to the Wise V3, the average consumer may find it hard to justify when comparing color night vision capabilities. Believe it or not, the Wise V3 actually blew it out of the water, but it wasn't a hardwired camera, and again, RTSP support was an issue. So far, most of these were outside the home, so let's look back at some of the stuff we did inside the home. Like the HomeWorks Bluetooth speaker and fan. This was actually something given to me by my uncle for our previous home. I didn't install it there because we were already in the process of moving. This is actually something my wife misses a bit because it allowed her to have music in the bathroom without bringing in her phone or a speaker. And now we have shower heads with Alexa built in. We may have to check that out in the next house. We also set up automation in the garage with the help of the Linear Go control adapter, which allowed us to automate non-smart garage door openers. Even though that wasn't the focus of our video showing how to open your garage with Android Auto, it was one of the key components in the background making things work. And then we learned how to 3D print. You all know how that went. We made a home control hub that could be 3D printed and housed an iPad Mini 6. There were many other 3D printed items I made in the background that never made it on the channel. So there's an interesting fact about why I actually bought a 3D printer. Believe it or not, it was because of a $16 part I bought on Amazon that the seller obviously 3D printed. And they didn't even bother to sand or paint it. I literally returned the item and ordered my own 3D printer the next day. This was in the middle of the pandemic when supply chain took a big hit. I found myself designing my own parts, since some parts couldn't even be sourced, like my retrofit mount for the Ubiquiti U6 Lite AP. Now that I think about it, there are a ton of items and projects that we simply don't have time to cover in this video. As I was packing, I looked at all of these boxes, and this is kind of where I got the idea to do the video. Even though this move is bittersweet, it is very much so needed to grow. My family needs more space, I need more office space, and the channel needs space to grow as well. So I guess this is goodbye to the old new home. On to bigger and brighter things. All right, everybody, that's gonna do it for this one. Hopefully you all enjoyed the goodbye tribute to the last home we had. A lot of great memories in there, especially the fact that this is where the channel started. So that home will always hold a special place, especially here on the channel, but hopefully we'll be on to bigger and better things. As I mentioned, a lot of our reviews will be non-destructive things that you can do if you're renting a home or an apartment, as well as some product reviews, tips and tricks, a couple of surprise fixes that I already have in the works, and just all around some of the same quality that you guys expect from my videos, but hopefully with a little bit of a different flair moving forward. Pretty soon we'll be scoping out a new home, and I'll show you guys some of the things that I look for when purchasing a home. We'll be moving on to the third home, at least in my family's history. So a lot of things that we'll be looking for will be different this time around, and I may take you guys on that journey with me if you're interested in that. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.